Hi, you're watching SuccesSoul Conversations with me, Vicky Paul. I'm an intuitive, an artist, and an author, and I'm passionate about self-transformation. I believe when we reconnect with our soul selves, we become who we were born to be. And I wanted to set up a series of conversations with people who have inspired me with their own soul reconnection journey. And I'm delighted to have today's guest, who is Sean Patrick. He's the CEO and founder of That Guy's House Publishing. His debut novel, That Guy Who Loves the Universe, I beg your pardon, became a bestseller in 2016, and it went on to win multiple awards, including the Best Book at the 2018 Platinum Awards. Sean is a researcher in the field of positive psychology, for which he earned accreditation from the British Psychological Society for his research into spiritual intelligence. And accordingly, he is an advocate for positive mental health and wellness. And Sean has been all over the media, so you may already know his face. He's been on BBC World News, the Huffington Post, the Sunday Express, and the Daily Mail. And his overall passion is to help people turn their life experiences into inspirational messages. So welcome.
Hello, Vicky.
Oh, blessed to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know how I love hanging out with you, so it's all good.
Yes, we'll just add in here, Sean is my publisher, so this is not nepotism. He's a very inspiring guy and has got an amazing journey, which I hope you're going to share with us today.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And what I wanted these conversations to do is kind of mirror the flow of the book. So the first sort of stage of the book is called The Understanding, and this is really what happened to you. What was the event, the process, the life-changing moment where you realized that life couldn't go on anymore as it was? You just weren't satisfied and change had to happen.
So, you know, it's actually really timely we're having this conversation because it's pretty much 10 years. It's definitely 10 years to the month, but I'm going to guess it's 10 years to the week. Where I was 21. Mm-hmm. I was recently graduated from university. I had a pretty good life. You know, I had a city center apartment. I had a cool job. And there was so many things that on the surface could make me very happy, but there was this gaping sadness, black hole that just surrounded me, and it seemed so out of place. And I do recall, you know, after a long stretch of, you know, just like heartache, dissatisfaction, anxiety, depression, social anxiety. I mean, I just become this bundle and bubble of nerves and tension. That I was in my office one day and I was just like, I can't go on anymore. Now, it wasn't as dramatic as thinking I was going to kill myself, but it was a case of, I literally just picked up my bag, ran out of the office. Looking back, maybe it was a panic attack, and it wasn't as if I was going home. Like I said, it wasn't like I was going home to kill myself, but I was fleeing from something. And I remember, because up north we have these beautiful cobble streets up north in England, and I crossed over one literally from there to there, the length of this room, and I really got the intuitive message, and I heard it like, was it my own thoughts? Was it God? Was it an angel? I don't care. I just know that I heard it. And it said, Sean, this is where you fall down, but stick around for where you're going to rise up. And I was just like, wow. And all of that anxiety and tension and that bundle of nerves, it just lifted in that moment. And I'm sure this is part two of the conversation, but what happened just around the corner was I was offered a short-term job contract out in Hong Kong.
Okay. And what were you doing out there?
Yeah. Pardon?
What was the job that you got offered?
Oh, I was teaching drama for the Hong Kong Speech and Drama Festival 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and do you want to know what? It was one of these examples of, you know, it was, wasn't a place I'd thought of. I couldn't point to it on a map at that time. And also I was chatting to someone recently about this, you know, for someone who was very tense with anxiety, Hong Kong is the least likely place to go for a journey of self-discovery. But God had circled it on a map that in the winter of 2010, Sean was going to this hectic little island to have one-on-one time with God, and that's what happened. And it was everything, and this is everything was so lined up. Like the job contract started the day after my contract in Liverpool ended. My apartment lease ended the day just before my job contract in Hong Kong started. It was lined up seamlessly. Yeah, and then of course, yeah, and just a little quick aside, because I don't want to tell the story inauthentically. I was like, I'm not going. What would I do that for? I was like, I need to just stay where I'm safe. I don't want to do that. And of course, it was just, it was one of those situations where I could kick and scream and protest and rationalize all I wanted. The universe had this seamless retreat planned out for me. And that was, 10 years ago. Next month is when I set off on that journey. So I'm so happy to be having this conversation.
Oh, wonderful. And how long were you out in Hong Kong for? Because this is news to me, that I didn't realize this.
Oh, guess, yeah. Well, that's for 4 months. It was 4 months. It was like I remember it was August 22nd, 2010. And I came home just before Christmas that year. So it was a 4-month retreat with God. It was hectic, and it was beautiful. And it's the entire story of my book, That Guy Who Loves the Universe, being that 22-year-old who was so riddled with the fears and anxieties that I think so much, I was going to say my generation, just so much of everyone lives with. And getting, I was just taken, it was like being picked up, taken out of my life, put into a completely foreign situation where I had no choice just to let go of who I'd been. Like there wasn't anything, there was nothing familiar or comforting around me. No. And I was working a job, so this is where I said God knew the perfect retreat for me. It wasn't like I was sitting around thinking, how do I grow my connection to God? How do I ease my anxiety? It was like I was put into this hectic field of just activity and joy and new friendships and new experiences. And I had to just, it was the only way I could break free from who I'd been, by putting into such a foreign situation.
And had you struggled with sort of anxiety prior to your late teens, early 20s?
Never diagnosed, but I can definitely look back, because of course when you're 15, that's all you know how you felt, so to speak. But looking back, I can definitely see, especially in regards to social anxiety, like I am very clear, like I remember being sat in coffee shops just wanting to speak to my friends and not being able to, or sitting down at a team meeting at work and the ultimate fear of it's going to come round to me and I have to give a 2-minute overview of what's going on in my department. Like that would keep me awake. Or if we were doing because I used to, part of my job was running the youth theatre, having to make a speech after the show and just saying, thank you for coming, fire exits are there. Oh, that kept me awake for weeks. It was
which is amazing, given how riddled with anxiety you were and what you do now. And that's why I love these conversations. And that's why I'm so passionate about people reconnecting with their soul self, because we get knocked off course through various, innumerable different ways, when we are young, and we kind of not lose our way, but we disconnect with who we are, and when we reconnect back in with that soul aspect of who we are, the transformation is almost like a 180-degree flip. It's incredible, given what you do now and how much, and your job is public facing and out there and talking about your spirituality. It's a lot better now and it's a lot more accepted now, but there's still a bit of a around the conversation. You have to be brave to do it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And you've just said it perfectly. It's a disconnection from who you are, because I recall in all of them times of severe social anxiety, just feeling so disconnected, I knew this wasn't who I was. And I remember, and I never forget this, my flatmate at the time, he came to watch one of the shows I'd produced with the youth theatre, and I had to give the speech afterward. God, he doesn't even know I remember this. And he said to me, he was like, yeah, you're definitely a backstage person, not a front of house person. And I was like, no, you've got it wrong. I was like, you can understand that I am a front of house person. I'm so disconnected from that right now. And I never forgot that, because that was shattering to me, because I just knew in myself. And I was at drama school, for crying out loud. I knew in myself I was that forward-facing, wanting to chat to people, confident, connected guy. And it was just, so it was never like, I never identified as being shy, anxious, socially. I was always just like, I'm currently the absence of who I am, but I never identified as, it wasn't like, oh, that's just my personality type. I was like, no, I'm disconnected from who I am. Yeah.
And just before we kind of jump on to the next stage, were you sort of aware of your own spirituality, or did you have any, you speak about God a lot, and there's different names for it, God, source, one, universe, whatever works for anyone. But is that something that happened to you in Hong Kong, or was that something that kind of resurrected itself in Hong Kong, or was it all new to you?
Oh no, it wasn't all new to me, and the word I use is the universe, hence the book, That Guy Who Loves the Universe. No, I was raised a Catholic, so I always had this connection with God. I fell away from that, early into my teens, but I never lost a sense of that's something bigger than me. And in my later teens, I began to have a relationship and called it the universe. So I never doubted that existed. I never doubted there was a relationship between me and a cosmic force. But it was all theory until I was in Hong Kong.
And I think that's, the more you speak to these people, or the more I speak to people in these conversations, everybody has different, moments, and some are big moments and some are kind of subtle moments that eat away and trick away at you for, a year at a time. But it is always interesting to hear what people's kind of moment is and when they reconnect and when that sort of that switch flicks. And I just wanted to kind of talk to you about, the kind of process of that transformation. So it started off in Hong Kong, and you were thrown into this, completely alien world where I guess just to survive, you could only forget about everything that was, because all your attention was forward thinking. And, that's really what happens. You get taken out of yourself, and your example was in a foreign country. So tell us what kind of happened in Hong Kong and then the subsequent months, and your book and how that all came about.
Absolutely. And the first thing to say is, I guess that talking about that crossing that cobbled street, I guess I couldn't have received that message had I not had some sense of something bigger. Maybe I could have done, but it just in regards to, where that resurrected. So it was a series of a million little things. And the main thing was being taken out of who I was and getting to be who I am, so to speak. A big thing about that whole journey, though, was I made an entire new friendship circle. I made an entire new life. I was in Hong Kong. And that highlighted to me, I actually didn't realize until that point how foreign it was to my system to be so consistently in company that loved and accepted me for who I was. And that was a mind funk from my 22-year-old self. I was like, I'm with this person and they just want to know how I'm doing, and there's not any kind of agenda around it. It was mind blowing. So first thing was being really conscious of the company I kept and who was in my close circle. Second thing was good old classic, and it's a classic because it's true, meditation. I was so fortunate one day in one of my very early days of work there, an incredible Indian lady said, "You interested in meditation and prayer?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm interested in meditation and prayer." And she took me to the most gorgeous little meditation center. It's the size of a terraced house in Hong Kong. And I went there 2-3 times a week. And they taught me a very specific kind of meditation. It was open-eyed meditation. They had a gorgeous mural on the wall with one little tea light. And you sat and focused on that being the universe, that being God, that being you. And you just sat with that. And it wasn't about sitting in silence. It wasn't about trying to quiet your mind. It was something just so pure that you focused on that light and you remembered who you were. Going back to what you were saying, this is all making so much sense to me now. Thank you for this interview. It was, I am love, I am peace, I am mercy, I'm divine light. It was remembering all them inherent qualities of your soul. And you want to know what? Sitting there doing that 3 times a week for half an hour, like a workout, it got me there. It washed away. And that's actually I remember it so much. I've not read my book in a long time, but I remember it so much. It just washed away the things that weren't authentically me. And I had this really gorgeous poetic moment being the Enneagram type 4 that I am. I had a friend come visit me a couple months in, and I was really sad to see her go, and it was like goodbye. And I remember I came out of the underground in Hong Kong and it was just pouring down with rain, and I just sat there outside. I could have sat inside, but it was a poetic moment. I just sat there in the rain crying, but it was a really happy cry of, obviously, because I'd seen somebody from home and they'd come into this new world, and I'd realized I'd moved on from so much, and it was just this metaphorical wash away of who I was. It was incredible. I'll never forget that moment the rest of my life, and it was sitting in the rain, and I've sat in the rain many other times, and it was never that poetic.
Yeah, but it's amazing how the universe creates these scenarios, because I believe, you know, the universe is always trying to knock us back on course, but we don't, or most of us don't pay attention to all the subtleties. And it's not until something either repeats itself until you go, oh my God, what is going on? I'm here again, that you wake it up, or you get proper off course, and it's like a massive transformation.
And you've said it there, and I think another big lesson for me in that whole situation with Hong Kong, well, two things, it's twofold now. Surrender, like you hear that word has become so overused that I understand anyone listening to this might think, oh, that word again, but hopefully I can drive it home that little bit more. Whereas I had to surrender to the fact that no matter what I did, God had planned, the universe had planned that I was going on this journey. My lease was up, my job contract was up, the plane ticket was booked. Then when I got there, like I said, I had to surrender to the fact I now need to learn how to use an underground system in a Chinese country. I now need to, you know, open a bank. I had to just do. And I think my personality type specifically, I get out of myself in the action, not in the abstract.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was also but outside of the practicalities, it was surrender to the fact, Sean, and it was easy for me at the time, but it's not been as easy ever since I got home. You'll go into that meditation center 3 times a week, and you are sitting with God. And I meditated, I had a candle in my bedroom. I meditated every morning and every evening without fail. It wasn't quite 4 months because I didn't get into, so just say 3 months. And it sounds so, I mean, you hear it all the time, meditate, but are you doing it twice a day? I did it twice a day consistently, to the point where sometimes I'd get home from work, and before I was going to the evening activity, I was like, oh, I'll sneak in a little meditation. I just love it so much. I just loved that time. So meditate. I'm sorry, I'm going on so many things now because I'm thinking of all the lessons I got. And the other thing was stop mistaking God for the grandiose and glamorous. Because Hong Kong, it wasn't glamorous. I was in a small, because if anyone has ever been Hong Kong, everything's built up tiny. I was in a tiny little bedroom. Literally, you open my door, it hit the bed. You know, I wasn't eating at fancy restaurants. I was riding an underground. Like I said, it was not glamorous. I remember at one point, I'm sat on a rooftop with friends and we're drinking a beer, and I just thought, this is the closest to God I've ever felt. But I'd always thought God would show up for me in the grandiose and glamorous, in like a fame or a mansion, or, you know, I was like, God, that's like the Hollywood version of God, isn't it? I thought when God was going to show up for me, when the universe was going to show up, it would be very glamorous. And instead it was the opposite of that. It was in the subtle. So,
it's in the real.
It's in the real. Yes,
it's in the real. Yeah, and this is what these conversations are about. These are real people who have made massive shifts and massive transformation. And another word, you know, just to go back to the surrender, if people really sticking with that, trust, because it's all about trust, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's a constant. So that's a life journey. Trust.
It's a life journey, and I said I don't want to paint an inauthentic picture, because there was something. Effectively, I was on retreat for 4 months, and I didn't question. I just trusted that, you know, I had a meditation teacher. She said, you know, you sit yourself down twice a day and do it. But I even notice now, and it's been 10 years since that journey, and I meditate more often than I don't. But I still have thoughts, or I have new thoughts that say, well, in them 20 minutes a day, I was meditating. I could be growing my business. I could be working out. I could be, and actually it's like, what was so great about the naivety of my 22-year-old self, and that's why, you hear always be the student, always be the student. I was like, okay, they're telling me to meditate twice a day, so I gotta do it. And my intellect didn't get in the way of, well, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. What does it add up to anyway? I'll just do a really long meditation on Sunday. No,
I guess as well, though, you were in a space where you were unfolding, and that's fully immersive, and that level of intensity is, for many people is not realistic, because life does get in the way. So you mentioned a friend came over to Hong Kong. What happened when you came back? Because obviously you were in that bubble, and when you kind of transition or start to transition back into the mind, body, soul connection, it is all consuming, and it is a bit of a bubble, and you could stay there forever, but you get, we're here to have a human experience, a physical experience. We get zapped back into life. So what happened, and how did the book come about?
Oh, so when I came back, thank God the experience had been that explicitly, palpably transformative to me. And I was very aware of how unhappy I'd been previously. I came back actively protecting my new self. And that was the important thing. So it was, like I said, it was friendships I wasn't going to have anymore. It was activities I wasn't going to engage in anymore. And it was looking for a life's work I was going to pursue that wasn't just having a job.
How was that? I just want to, when you're talking about that, when you came back transformed or on the journey to transformation, everything stayed the same. So how was that? Did you end relationships? How did your family take you? What was that experience like?
I think I guess at the beginning, there was little blows to my system, but only minor, whereas the other people in my life, not that they haven't transformed, but they've been in the same place. I almost could bet they hadn't been on the journey I'd been on, I'll put it that way. But also there was this naive part of me which was like, everyone's going to be like, oh my God, you changed. But it was all internal, so it couldn't, what I mean? And I just gave up very quickly this hope that my change was going to be recognized and celebrated. And I was like, well, that's fine. It keeps it safer, I guess. So how was that? It was once again a very private journey of subtly making decisions and subtly doing things that were more in line with who I was. And that also came down to, it was 6-7 months later. I really felt this connection to pursue a life's work that was meaningful to me. And just in that bravery and that connection, I was like, I gotta go to New York. And I was like, I know, it's so crazy. And even I was like, and there was this there was this book writing workshop that was happening in New York. I'm sure there was loads in England, but I had my eyes set on that one in New York.
Well, listen, you've been to Hong Kong. You needed to go somewhere spectacular for the next bit.
So anyway, I went to New York City once again. My 23-year-old self at that point, brave, packed a bag, rented a place in Brooklyn. I stayed there for a couple of weeks because I was going on these writing workshops specifically about mind, body, spirit writing.
Okay.
And that was the next phase of my journey, where I started to pen a book about that experience I'd had, because I knew it was so profound. And either way, I wasn't ever going to let that not be immortalized. So I started penning this book. I went to New York. I was then connected back to publishers in London. And over the course of time, I wrote this book, which changed a lot, which took a lot of years.
How long did it take you to write the book?
So, 5 years, but I was not writing that book every day. You know what I mean?
I think people don't realize, I remember hearing once J.K. Rowling, from when she first, and I probably was pen to paper back in the day, but her first one on her typewriter till it was published, that was a 10-year period. And people don't realize, and I myself, I was 5 years, from the first concept, to get into the zone. So that's interesting you said 5 years as well.
Oh yeah, no, it was 5 years, but I do remember at one point there was a publisher looking at the book who was like, "We need a manuscript in 2 weeks." So a lot of that first draft was done, but yeah, so there was like 6 month periods I wasn't touching it, but yeah, that book, and I returned to Hong Kong multiple times to write that book as well. Like there was trips I took, there was times I went out there to speak to some of the people who'd been so transformative, like my meditation teacher, so I could really enrich that for the book. So yeah, it was a 5 year period. And I mean, to jump to the next part of the story, I'd been back and forth with multiple publishers. I had a great literary agent out in San Diego. And for some reason or another, this publishing deal with publishing houses wasn't coming to be. And I can still look back and say, it was making no sense to me. I had the followers, I had the endorsements, I had the manuscript, I had it. And then, of course, the surrender. I was blogging at the time. I had a blog called That Guy Who Loves the Universe. That's why the book was called that's why the book is called what it's called. That's where I have the following. And anyway, back and forth. I wasn't getting this publishing deal with various publishers, and I really wanted it. And I thought I had a great, strong case. And I just remember the day I got a note from a publisher that said, and this is, like I said, it's been a long time. It was like, "Are you sure you don't want to change the book to more of like a 10 tips for overcoming anxiety?" And to me, that was just a surrender moment where I said, no, I don't. This is the spiritual memoir of overcoming who I was, and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous and I love it so much, and I said, and I guess I'm gonna self-publish, because we've been going back and forth for years now. I didn't want to just self-publish because I'd been so close with publishers that I set up That Guy's House, my publishing company, based on That Guy Who Loves the Universe, with the sole intention of publishing my book and my book only. So I set up That Guy's House, I set up the company, I bought the ISBNs, I secured the distribution just for my one little book. And of course, here we are 3 years later with multiple authors, international. And that was once again the same grace the universe showed me by saying, forget your job, forget your apartment, you're going to China. It said to me, forget the publishers, forget the agent, you're doing this yourself.
And that's the thing when you reconnect with soul self. You know, I believe we have all the wisdom, because we come here with it's like a blueprint. I don't want to say it's a path or a very fixed path, but we come here to evolve, expand, and there are points in that journey that we are supposed to be at. How we get to it is, that's the joy of being a human and picking, using free will. But it's interesting that when you reconnect, it's kind of like, even though the information that's coming into you is so far removed or so random or so out there or so, oh my God, really? You're doing what? But you just know. The doubt disappears.
Absolutely. And that is, if that's a skill I could grant anybody with, it would be that. Because, for example, when I talk about New York, I mean, Hong Kong, I was looking for someone to give me a reason not to go. But New York, for example, that was even more random. I wasn't going out for a job, but I just knew, I was like, listen, I'm meant to go to New York. And I was like, what are you going to do about it? You're going to tell me it's the wrong decision? You're going to tell me it's too much money? You're going to tell me it's unsafe? But it was irrelevant, because I just knew that was a trip I had to take. And I've said this to people in the past, if they're like, if they've, and all the authors I work with, I'm like, just give yourself permission to write the book you want to write. Because if you start writing the book thinking, someone's going to think that, someone's going to say that, someone's going to accuse me of this, unless you can go, and what? You're not writing the book you're meant to write.
Do you think there's a book, they talk about there being a book in everyone? Do you think everyone's got a story? I believe that, but whether, everyone's got and stories connect people, and it's, top tips don't bring a story to life. Top tips don't allow somebody to resonate and see themselves in your journey and your story. So, good on you for sticking to that one. But do you think there's a book in everyone?
I absolutely do. And what I will say is, it's a marathon to write a book. I think in everybody. I mean, I'm never gonna bear or birth children, but I do use that as my analogy. like it's a long journey. It's painful and messy, and you do it. So I do think there's a book in everyone, but no, I don't think everybody should choose to go on that journey, because it can take it out of you. The same way everyone doesn't choose to be a parent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do think that a book takes it out of you. It's more it's more guts than glory. It really is. But like I said with my book, I had to write that. I had to share these experiences and lessons. And it was just like something, once again, surrender. If I hadn't wrote that book, I'd still be sat here now wishing I'd wrote that book. I'd still be sat here thinking about writing that book. So you write a book because you have to, but if you are writing a book, because otherwise there's many other more enjoyable ways you can spend your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wanted to check, and I'm just kind of taking my notes, how did you get, from accreditation from the British Psychological Society? So I just want to touch on that, because it's very different from being a publisher, and I understand that you're an advocate for mental health because that was your own personal experience, but how did that all, and you talked about drama, so there's, is there a thread that runs through it that you can see now?
No, and I'm still trying to put together that thread. So I was a drama student, wanted to be an actor, but decided very close into drama school that was not the path for me with my current level of resiliency and mental health at that time. So that wasn't happening. But I did focus on, towards the end of my drama degree, doing theatre for wellness, mental health, and happiness. So that theme was always in my life, that interest in human psychology. Then I did a master's degree in psychology, and my research paper was on the correlation between spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and flourishing. So
wonderful.
It was so wonderful, and that was my research, and it went on to, the research showed that spiritual intelligence was the strongest correlation out of them three variables to flourishing, which is optimum well-being. Which was the result I wanted, because I thought it would be a case of emotional intelligence is a thing, or even everyone talks about mindfulness these days, but in the research I carried out, it showed that actually being able to find personal meaning production, which is the subsection of the spiritual intelligence measure I used, was just, if you want a flourishing life, it's personal meaning production, the ability to produce meaning in what you do.
Absolutely.
And then that research was accredited. I'm not a psychologist in terms of a therapist, but as a researcher I'm a researcher in psychology.
But it just shows you how, and there's an organization that I actually found on the Instagram called Squiggly Careers, and it just really, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. You start, and I'm the same, you kind of like, you're all over here and then you go way back over there, and then so, and this is the thing for me, because there's so much pressure on you when you're younger to, what do you want to be when you grow up? You've got to pick the exams that you want to go and do. And if you don't want to do exams, or that's not your forte, then okay, well, you're going to fail, because you're not going to go and study and go to uni. How the heck do you know what you want to do when you're 13, 14, 15, 16, even when you're 25? Do you know what I mean?
Even when you're, do you want to know what? Because I had to pick my uni choice when I was 17, and I chose this community theatre degree. And like I said, it worked out, because I got to do this theatre for emotional health towards the end. But yeah, I mean, had I gone to uni a couple of years later, at one point I would have chose journalism. At one point I would have chose publishing. I would have chose PR. Yeah, so it is squiggly careers, and I think I am trying to find the through line. I'm currently writing, acting, and producing a one-man show about like a spiritual guru who finds emotional health. So that really is the meeting. That is the Venn diagram of all my things.
Communication.
Yes. So
communication.
I've not acted in, until last summer, I haven't acted in 9 years. So I am acting again, but I'm purposefully creating a show around this spiritual world. So I think, I love, and and this is a conversation I have with my boyfriend all the time. It's like, how do I hone everything I do into into the one thing that I say I do.
I don't think you do. And, you know, we had this, you very kindly set up a Zoom call with Robert Holden, you know, and he spoke about this. You know, one of the other authors had said, you know, how do I make this work? Because I'm this. You know, society tries to put us in a box because that's how we are controlled. That's how the system works, you know, and you know, it's not supposed to be like that. You're not supposed to be in a box. You know, we are multidimensional beings. We have many gifts and talents, and you're supposed to explore all of them. You know, and that's, you know, I'm the same. I'm like, well, I do intuitive work and I do painting. I'm an artist and I write, you know, and I take workshops and I talk to people and I want to do this. You know, the world, this is where the abundance stuff comes from. You know, you can do anything and all of it. You know, whether you do all of them, you know, well or to the extent that you want to do them, that's, you know, that's up to you. You know, but I just want to kind of just go back very quickly to, you know, which is the kind of final section in the book called The Payoff, which really, I guess, was that transition into setting up a publishing company. Because, you know, it's quite easy, in inverted commas, to self-publish. You know, there's lots of people self-publish and have some success with self-publishing. So, you know, not everybody goes, well, if I can't do that, I'll just set up the company. You know, so where did that come from?
It was because like I said, I'd been so close to a traditional publishing deal,
right?
And I wanted that for so many reasons. Like, and obviously, like I didn't come back from Hong Kong healed. I came back from Hong Kong much more aware and peaceful. I was looking for validation from something external. I wanted the community that I thought, you know, all the authors will get together and we'll be best friends. I guess I was looking for that more so than a book being available. So when it came to, like I said, when it came to deciding that I was going to set up a company and self-publish and distribute the book, I was literally creating my own little home that was empty at that point. And I didn't even have any intention of filling it with people, but it was creating a house, literally a house, where I guess I felt my work could be expressed and it belonged to something. I don't quite know if I'm answering your question.
No, you have, yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's interesting, again, that abundance mindset, you know, when you're on the flow and in the path and, you know, aligned with spirit, stuff just happens. You know, you probably never even thought, you know, 5 years ago, I'm going to own a publishing house and I'm going to publish, you know, hundreds of different authors, all in the spiritual.
Yes. And even today, I think, when did that happen? I'm like, I never once thought or strategized I'm going to be a publisher. Literally, I set it up to publish my book. A couple months later, 2 people asked me if I'd help mentor them to release their book under that guy's house. Because I had spare ISBNs. I bought 10 and only 2. And I was like, sure, I can work with another handful of authors. And it always, every time I put in the ISBN order, I always think, wow, because I started out with 10 and that was just to publish my book, and then I helped out a few people. And then and every time I put in an order to buy ISBN, which is the book international book standard number, and that you need to publish a book, I think, wow, it's like, how are we here again needing to buy more ISBNs when it was just going to be me? So that's always a nice moment for me.
Oh, I love it. I love hearing that kind of story, because this is what happens, you know, and I always tell this to clients when I do soul purpose readings and help people to reconnect with their purpose and meaning, you know, their life purpose. And I always say to people, you know, when you're on the path, you know, you cannot today dream up what is going to happen to you in the future when you're back on path. You couldn't imagine where your life is going to go. And that's where that ultimate trust comes in, where you just go, do you know, I'm just going to keep taking today at every day as one new day, and just see what comes up. And it's amazing.
It's amazing. And I will really hone in on that, because I think so many of us who are in this spiritual world, there's 2 paths our ego can take or our mind can take, because the ultimate path is the universe anyway. But I do think there is that, I can't imagine what life's going to unfold for me. I'll show up every day. That path of surrender. And all too often I see, you know, a path of strategy. Like, this is what I want. And honestly, I'm going to say this, and maybe I don't want to be quoted on this, but I'm saying it anyway. I think that's the difference between enlightenment and empowerment. And I don't think either one is not a state you get to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do believe it's very empowering to say, this is what I want. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to harness the powers of the universe, and I'm going to make it happen. But it's empowerment at best. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think what we're all looking for is something better than that, which is that enlightened journey of, dear universe, you tell me. And I really, and this is a recent lesson to me. This is even just going back to like last summer. I've been so allured by empowerment so many times, but just found so much comfort and release in a more enlightened way, a more surrendered way. And I always, effectively, like Byron Katie is my ultimate teacher. But sometimes I just really want to be like the Marianne Williamson, Tony Robbins, who is like, this is what I'm going for. This is what I stand for. And actually, and I can get behind that for a short time, and I'm not discrediting the work they do. They're incredible. But their path doesn't bring me as much comfort as leaning into, I'm here to be helpful. What can I do today?
But I think, we are, multidimensional beings, but at a base level for me, we're the kind of energetic being, we're the soul, the spirit being, and then we're the human incarnation of that. So the human is the empowerment side of us, and the spiritual, the soulful self is this enlightenment. So you are going to naturally go from one to the other because we're soul in a human, having a human experience. We chose to do the physical stuff. So, and for me, it's, and this is a really lovely way to sum up, it's really about finding the balance and the flow between all aspects of ourselves and drawing on the strengths and the stability in the mind, in the body, and in the soul, and being able to flow seamlessly back and forward and use all of that. Because at the moment, the world is really forcing us to stay in mind, body, mind, body, mind, body. There's definitely shifts happening, and everybody you speak to in this realm, I guess, the spiritual world, and those, incidentally, I had a really interesting conversation with some people yesterday who I would not have taken as kind of spiritual junkies, but they said there's a big change. The pandemic, it's changed things, and we are really beginning. You grow up and things change, and I was kind of like, ooh.
Yes.
No.
You're so, and thank you for that. I'm really going to take that. It's so funny because I use the word mind, body, spirit like an ambiguous term, but actually the way you said it, they're three powerful words. And like I was saying, like Byron Katie, Tony Robbins, Byron, actually it is that, it is all three.
We need to do what you did with Brangelina, and it's by Robbins. Robbins.
That's what I need. That is what I need. Because that is what I need, and I do flutter between the So I appreciate that. It is a cross. Thank you.
No worries. And just to kind of sum up, if there's anything, I guess, would there be something at this point in your life that if you could tell your younger self? Or do you still feel there's unfolding to go and you're not ready there to inform, your younger self, or is the wisdom built enough within you that you can pass on?
Oh no, I can definitely say some things to my younger self, and I will say this, I'll be authentic, and that's once again something that is only in the abstract. What I'm meaning specifically for me was, as soon as I became a spiritual teacher or blogger or speaker, I was like, okay, so I'm not an actor anymore. Whereas actually last summer I realized I really missed something. What is it? Oh, it's acting. And then I started acting again. I'm like, well, this is some of the most intense meditative experiences I've had. That's my example. But what I'm saying is, don't put yourself in a box, which is, gosh, it's so bizarre because I'm trying to find that box to put myself in. But actually, thanks to this conversation, be all of your unique things. Like I remember speaking with publishers, and it was like, so tell me about what you do. I didn't say anything about the drama or the drama degree or the fact that I did theatre for emotional health. I was like, this is how I'm going to show you I'm a spiritual teacher. Whereas actually, what makes you so nuanced is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's my big lesson now, which I'm still unfolding. We chatted about it live here on this call.
Mm-hmm.
Is there are multiple aspects of you, and it's okay to be them all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning that, but I definitely don't have regrets. Maybe I do have regrets, but I do think in 9 years I didn't pick up a script or read a play. I'm like, whoa, that breaks my heart. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure like if you spent 9 years not painting, you'd be like, what?
Well, to be honest, I did.
Oh wow, okay.
I did. I painted, all the time. And then my papa, so my granddad, died. So he had cancer and was in hospital, and he had false teeth. And obviously with the morphine at the end, and they took his teeth out. And I remember when the night he died, they took his teeth out, and he was, all kind of sunk in. And I went home after saying goodbye to him, and I painted Edvard Munch's The Scream, with wax crayon about 4 or 5 times, different colors, different versions, but always the same. And then I did not paint for years. And it wasn't until, but I found different outlets for my creativity. I sang, I wrote poetry, I was a radio presenter for many years. So I still, like you, needed that, I guess, performance element of it, and this is a performance. And then I started to have all these kind of funky experiences when my mental and emotional health wasn't at its best after I lost a career quite abruptly. And it always came into my head that it was the same papa that I had watched pass away. He was trying to get a hold of me. And now when I look back, that kind of profound experience led me on my own journey of, inquiry, into spirituality, and even deeper, the sort of psychic and mediumship side of things. And he got me painting again. It was a kind of combination of that, and also, we suffered a number of miscarriages, and I felt, you talk about birthing, the book being birthing, I felt that I was denied the ability to be a woman and a mother and produce, have the ultimate creation in bringing a child into this world. And that's how, it sounds quite, whoa, and it probably wasn't at the time, but it was just my way of creating and expressing myself, and that's how I now paint. But I don't want to give up one. One of the guy I was talking about earlier on, that wasn't quite as spiritual as he probably let on. He said to me, "What do you prefer?" And I was like, I couldn't just pick one. I wouldn't be satisfied if I just painted all the time. I wouldn't be satisfied if I just wrote books all the time. I wouldn't be satisfied if I didn't work with people, from a soul coaching point of view. It has to be all of the above. But I don't think that's the end of it. For me, I'm like, well, what more can I do? What more can I share? How can I reach different people in different ways? So, it's
So do you know what? Yeah. So Vicky, I'm going to say, me and you need to become each other's accountability partners for the palette. Yeah, deal. It's like I want to call you every time I'm trying to figure out what box this goes in, because I need
get rid of the box.
Yes, I'm going to call you every time I start to think that. Thank you. Deal. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for your book. It's my absolute honor to publish it. I'm so excited for people to read it. And having had this conversation, which I think is so funny, we thought we'd do in half an hour. Yeah, that's true. I am excited to not only be a publisher of How to Be SuccessSoul, but I'm going to embody its teachings. Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
God bless you. Oh, listen, thank you so much for having this conversation and sharing your story. It's wonderful. And I hope that it inspires everyone who's watching this. So please share these videos, and be part of this, journey, this process. We are all connected, and we have to share our story, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you've got any comments, pop them in below. You can also get in touch with myself and Sean. Now, Sean, here's your opportunity to plug. If anyone does want to find out either about you and the work that you do, or indeed if they're interested in becoming an author, how do they get in touch with you?
Incredible. So the publishing house is called That Guy's House. And if you do have a book idea in you and you want to submit it to us, you can do that just through authors@thatguyshouse.com, AUTHORS. Hope I spelled that right. And follow my work. It is best, because there's a million Sean Patricks in the world. That guy who loves the universe. That is me. So that's where you can find me.
Wonderful. I'll put everything into the comments below. And again, thank you very much for watching. And if you want to find out more about me, my website is vickypaul.com, V-I-C-K-Y, paul.com. And of course, my new book, How to Be Successful, is available to pre-order on Amazon. The links will be here, and it's going to be published on the 17th of September. So take care, and thank you very much for watching.
Bye.